Today we're talking about completing the square, another method of solving a quadratic formula. To start off with, I want you to look at these expressions in blue. I want to see if you can figure out what this pattern is. First one, x squared plus 2x plus 1, x squared plus 4x plus 4, x squared plus 6x plus 9, x squared plus 8x plus 16, and x squared plus 10x plus 25. The last three, this last value is empty. X squared plus 12x plus something. What do you think this is? What do you recognize about these numbers? See if you can figure out what that relation is. I'll tell you that this answer is 36, if we filled that in. This one is 49. This one is 64. Now, the reason why I listed these is because these are all perfect squares. We can factor all of these as perfect squares. If you notice, half of 2 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1. Half of 4 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. We skip down. Half of 10 is 5, 5 squared is 25. Half of 16 is 8, 8 times 8 is 64. These are perfect squares, those special factor cases that we talked about earlier in the year. So again, we're focusing on solving quadratic equations by using the completing the square method. Here are the different steps to complete the square. Step 1, we create a spot for a new c value. So what I did on the first part, where we had to think about half of your b value and squaring it, developing that relationship. That's what we did just before. We created a new spot for c, and we did that. Step 2, taking half of our b value and squaring it. Add this to both sides. Then we factor a perfect square. Something in parentheses squared, square root both sides. This results in two answers, a positive and negative root. We'll talk about that when we go through some of these problems. Last one, solve for both problems. Unless this equals 0, we will have two solutions. If it equals a negative number, there'll be no real solutions. We'll have to wait till that for another lesson to deal with those square roots of negative numbers. So moving on to the lesson, keep this hand if you need to. Pause the video and take notes on it. So looking at the first problem, we want to complete this square. X squared plus 10x plus something. Half of 10 is 5. And 5 squared is 25. Number 2, x squared plus 24x plus something. Half of 24 is 12. 12 squared is 144. X squared minus 36x. Now, even this is minus, what's half of negative 36? It is negative 18. If we square this, it still results in a positive number. So we're always going to be adding here, which is 324. Next one, x squared minus 3x plus something. Half of negative 3 is negative 3 halves. If we square this, it's just the same. 3 squared is 9. 2 squared is 4, so it's 9 fourths. Okay. And we'll do another one because it is a fraction, so you can see it again. X squared plus 9x. Half of 9 is 9 over 2. When we square this, it is 81 fourths. Again, keep these as fractions. They're a lot easier to work with. Now, if we are going to solve some of these, I'm going to solve a couple of them now, and then we'll work on more of them during class. At least you'll get the hang of it. The number one problem where it says solving for completing the square. Squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 25. First step, create a spot for the new c value by adding opposites. The opposite of 16 is negative 16. When we add down, we just created a spot for our c value. 25 minus 16 is 9. This is where we do that thing. Half of 8 is 4. And then 4 squared is 16. We add it to both sides. And if you add it to one side, you need to add it to the other side. So that was step 2. Step 3, factor this. The only way we can factor it, the perfect square is x plus this square root or x minus that square root. 9 plus 16 is 25. Step 4, square root both sides. When you take the square root of a perfect square, it is just itself. Square root of 5 is 5 and negative 5. Last step, we solve it. Add negative 4 to both sides. To both answers. 5 minus 4 is 1. Negative 5 and negative 4 is negative 9. So our two answers are 1 and negative 9. We're going to skip ahead to number 6. We have x squared minus 36x minus 21 equals 35. Now again, first step, add our opposites. Add 21 to both sides. We now have x squared minus 36x equals 56. Half of 36 is 18. And 18 squared is 324. So I'm adding 324 to both sides. Very big number. Oops, I don't want to do that. Now we can factor this. Step 3. X minus 18, and that's squared. Again, you look. Half of negative 36 is negative 18. Square root of 324 is 18. Both the same number. Add this down. And that's 380. Now, square root. This stays as x minus 18. We're getting rid of that square. And the square root of 380, we have to think, what's a perfect square that goes into that number? Is there any? Just off the top of my head, I know 4 goes in. There might be a bigger number. I'm going to start with 4. And that is 95. Again, that might be a bigger number that you're used to, but that's how we break it down. So now we have x minus 18. We know the square root of 4 is 2 times the square root of 95. There's nothing else we can use there. That's it. Now again, this is a positive number and a negative number. Positive root and negative root. Add 18 to both sides. And we are simply rewriting. We cannot combine anything here. So our answer is x equals 18 plus or minus. So we're adding it and we're going to subtract it. 2 times the square root of 95. The other 4 problems we're going to do in class together. You can give them a try and see how you come out with them.